All right, what is going on, everybody? This is Brandon from ComixKings. Welcome, everybody, back to the Kingdom, and welcome, everybody, back to the relaunch of Creators Corner. If you guys are new to the show, which most of you guys are, Creators Corner was a segment we used to do over on IGTV, and we would interview creator, promote their work, talk to them about kind of their origin story, what they're working on, their current projects, and we're going to continue that over here on YouTube, and this is going to be such a fun show. I'm super excited because we have the artist on Excalibur. He also did work on Nightwing, but we're here to talk about Excalibur and get ready for the Hellfire Gala. We got Marcus Toe. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. And this has just been an epic book, you know. I've been loving it. It was like the stepping stones for Ten of Swords, that excellent event, everything going forward. So I'm super excited to have you on the show today, talking about this work, or talk about your work on the book. So what was like the first kind of reaction to being brought in? Like when you first heard about it, when they first pitched the project to you?
Well, I've been working in the industry for a good amount of years now. And I've been, ever since Red Robin, which was my first, major big two project, we had a good 20 issues run on with me alone. I've been dying to do something like that again for a long time. I had a chance to work on a lot of things, like you said, Nightwing. I did some Xmen Blue. I did, my own creator-owned project, Joyride. I've done work. I worked with Alyssa Milano on a project. Like, I jumped around a lot, and I was really, really wanting to draw an ongoing book, because I really feel that having the same creators on a book for a significant amount of time is the best way to kind of build that audience and that group and that relationship with the fans. So when they after, I think it was Age of Xmen,
Right,
which I was working on a book with Ed Brisson called Next Gen, and they basically gave me a call and said, we're thinking about doing this thing with like relaunching the X titles. Would you like to be on? We want you to be on Excalibur. And I jumped at the opportunity. I thought that this was going to be really exciting stuff, and having Hickman as kind of like the captain of the ship,
right,
really sold the idea that, like, we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be, line wide. It's going to be done with a plan. Do you know what I mean? And having someone like Hickman as the captain really just makes it,
right,
so much more comfortable being there, because that decisions aren't being made last minute and all these kind of things. So it's been really smooth sailing on my end, and it's been amazing ever since.
Right. And yeah, like you said, Hickman is an excellent creator. He's been working with Marvel for many years, and he's like a visionary, right? Like you got your pure like character writers, like your Chip Zdarsky's, your Donny Cates. But I think like between Al Ewing and even like Jonathan Hickman, I think they're like the two biggest visionaries that comics has right now, right? Like Chris Claremont back probably in your day, or even like for most of these guys in the chat, their day. This is like kind of like my generation, like the current generation of visionaries that are going to lead the next seminal work.
Yeah.
So like when we got Hickman on X-Men, that was probably like the best announcement that I heard. And I remember going to the midnight release of both House of X and X-Men #1. And it was like, and this is when we could party, man. This is when we could party. And it was awesome. It was awesome. I do want to address the chat. If you guys do have a question for Marcus Toe, drop it down and I will get to it. I'll try to weave it in organically as I see fit. What is up, Chet? He is probably the biggest X-Men fan I know. How are you doing? We got Fable in here. We got Travis in your station. You guys, it's like a way of saying hello for anyone who doesn't know Station. It's from a TV show that I didn't watch. Justin, No Good Comics, who just had a show. Thank you so much for being here. And Sith Lordly was on his show as well. What is up, Sheena and Rudy? And we do have a lot of Canadians in here, a lot of people who are hockey fans in here. So that's going to be an interesting conversation for later, because I know there are a lot of hockey fans on here, and the season right now is still going on. And My Penguins are not doing so well today. They put up 3 shots at the end of the first period. And we got my man Bryce. He has done his work break, and he's here. Bryce, you are the man. But yeah, so you jumped at the project, right, to come on Excalibur with Teenie Howard, who's an excellent writer. You know, she was doing a lot of stuff coming over from IDW into Marvel with Death's Head. She did Strike Force, which is an excellent book. I wish it came back. And she did the Thanos book, which focuses around Gamora. What was your relationship like with Teenie Howard at the time or was it just through like hearsay?
Well, honestly, it was just through hearsay at the beginning, and in a lot of ways, that's kind of how a lot of comic relationships start off with, because we all live in all over the world, and there's a good amount of times you never actually the person's name, you never had a chance to either see them at a con or work with them. So I didn't know too much about Teenie, but I think we really hit it off right away. I think we have a very similar aesthetic, and when I read her scripts, it's so intuitive. Like it's open enough where I have the ability to kind of do what I think visually looks best, but also enough instruction where I'm not second guessing what she's talking about, right? Because sometimes there's a middle ground between writing scripts and how the artist reads it and kind of envisions it, that sometimes you can either write too much or too little, and I think with any kind of, I don't know, partnership or collaboration, you have to have the right amount of
balance.
Balance of just dialogue and stuff like that. So
right, and I know like a lot of different writers, they do scripts differently. So how does like Teenie's scripts kind of help you in a sense, more so than some other people that you've worked with in the past?
Well, I like a lot of description of exactly where her what she's thinking about when she's doing it. So whenever you're describing, say, like maybe a shot, or even though like a lot of times I choose whether or not to use those kind of visual cues or not, but you either choose like a kind of shot that you want, or even something like a costume or a person. She'll give descriptions of who she was thinking about at the time when writing said person. Let's say like XYZ person walks in the door. She looks like this actress from this movie. So I get the idea, and I totally understand the kind of feeling she's going for when that hits.
Right.
Where and with I love getting links in my scripts to show like, maybe this amulet looks like this, and then she gives it to me, and so it just really gives an idea. And she's a big pop culture nerd, obviously, so she's it's always a bunch of movies and a bunch of this and that, and I'm learning a lot from it too, right? So it's like so when because that's how I started with comics in a lot of ways, because I would try to think what why does that shot in that movie work so well? So you kind of deconstruct that, and why did that make me feel that way, right? Because there's ways of constructing a story to give you what you want. That I was rewatching some of the Marvel movies again, and they do it really well. Like the biggest one was, as we all know, the Avengers assemble scene in Endgame, where Cap finally says Avengers assemble, and everyone's just like there,
just like running around crazy.
But they tease that line without saying it throughout all the movies. For instance, Avengers 1. If you backtrack that and see that he wants to say Avengers, and then they cut it, or like they do something, or they do something different, and then it's. But it's those kind of things that tug at the heartstrings, and that's us as creators want to somehow kind of send you on a ride like that, and that's kind of what our job is, right? So I think Teenie has those beats really well, Because even when I'm reading the script, I'm like, oh, Teeny,
This is exciting.
like, oh man,
Yeah.
you did it again. That kind of thing where even when I'm reading the script, I'm getting excited because she's taking me
they're
on the
coming,
journey as well.
right.
So,
Uh,
yeah.
and that's awesome, man. Because like as an artist, right, even like people who are creators that I've come to learn through my experiences, they're just as big of comic fans as like everyone else in the chat, right? We all share like the love for this hobby. So like you can get excited, right? And obviously like with films and media, great reference is because you can watch it and you can feel that way and portray it into your artwork.
Yeah.
I do like this question right over here. Bryce Hillbilly Comics says, what has been the best thing about working on an X-Men book? Here's an answer, but I think we want to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, like, me, like a lot of guys, people, excuse me, people my age, because I'm in my late 30s. We grew up with the X-Men cartoons, and for me, that kind of brought. I knew about the X-Men. I had a few comics, but that really kind of allowed me to dive deep into it. I grew up in a family with not a lot of money, so we didn't buy a lot of things. So I couldn't continue story. Like I buy a couple comics here and there and just, enjoy the art and kind of read the story. But I had no idea what happened afterwards because I would have one comic out of who knows what. But the cartoon allowed me to see it as the serialized format, which is, I think, why I really want to be involved in the long form storytelling, and be a part of an ongoing book, because it is that type of story that I love about comics, and how those long format stories just have, you can do so much really cool things with it. And I think Marvel, and one thing I love about the movies and the TV shows is that they kind of use those type of things that are unique to long format storytelling, but do it over movies and TV. Like their continuity, they don't give you everything that you want all at once. They just give you like a taste and a taste and a taste, and all of a sudden you're hooked, and then you're just waiting for that moment. And yeah, like short stories have their own benefit to it. You have one solid, good, point A to B to C story. But if I'm as a creator, I think in comics, that's my main goal, is to do something like that. And I'm glad that we're trying to do that with Excalibur.
Right, and this is a perfect book, not just because to do it with, because not just of the history that it's going to have like 20 years down the road, because it's a fantastic story, and for a lot of people, right, who didn't get a chance to read back in the 80s or the late 70s when Claremont and Alan Davis kicked off at Excalibur. This is like a good introducing like newer people to this world and to the Braddock family, which is another thing that I did want to talk about. I did see this question from my biggest X-Men fan in the chat. Who is your favorite X-Men character? He's a big Wolverine fan, so tread carefully.
So the funny thing about it is that mine kind of change from time to time, because it really depends on who I really feel like drawing at the time. But I'll say this: I have a soft spot for Cyclops.
Oh.
I'm a Psych fan. Like I think he's the best. I think he's the best.
Ooh. I don't like Cyclops.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Cyclops is the best leader that he's made out to be. And I think like the decisions he's made, especially like throughout the Claremont run, I'm just like, he's designed for us not to like him. I'm appreciating him more. In the newer run,
with Cyclops too, and I don't think he's necessarily the best leader, but I feel like he's one of the leaders that he had to do with little. He had to do the most with the least.
Yeah, and that's like what's bringing me back to him. It's like why I'll continue to read him, even though he's like my favorite is probably. I'm a big Magneto guy. Nightcrawler, Polaris, Jean are probably like my top 4. Another question, Marcus, who is your biggest inspiration as an artist growing up? Any mentors?
Well, when you're a kid, my mom was the one that taught me how to draw. But so she, in general, I know that's a hokey kind of thing answer, but when we were growing up, I wanted to play sports. I don't know if you can tell. But we didn't have a lot of money, and I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to play hockey. I wanted to do all these things, and we just didn't have time to do it. And so I was very like ADHD kind of kid, but I was also super aggressive, which is why I wanted to play, hockey and stuff like that, because I got to hit things but to sit still was really difficult. So she taught me to draw, and it helped focus. It helped focus me. Now, though, when as an adult, I'm a huge fan of Stuart Immonen, Juanjo Guarnito, who does Black Sad. I really love.
Right.
Urasawa is great. He did 20th Century Boys. Like you can go like there's a long list of creators, because as any fan of the medium, you just kind of take in a lot of stuff, right?
Right, and everyone has their distinct style.
Well, also not only that, it's like different times in your life will allow you to, because sometimes you change, from one point in your life to the next, and sometimes you're like, that used to be the thing that I really love, and I still love it for what it is, but I'm hungry for something more or something different. You can't kind of pick at a tree, right? Like I'm like, okay, I'll put that to the side for now, and I'll add something else. And I think in the grand scheme of things, that's how I like to do. Yeah, moms do know best.
Moms do know best, and sometimes like in this medium, right, outside stuff like our life can kind of help our takes in our medium, or like vice versa, right? Comics give back to your adult life as well, Now we're like kind of getting into the book itself. I just want to touch base on what you need to know for anyone who has not read Excalibur. Obviously, we've been talking about how Chris Claremont and Alan Davis started the run in the late 70s, early 80s. Definitely check that out. If you have not already, you can find it in an omnibus format or Marvel Unlimited. But you really just need to know the Braddock family and Otherworld, which is like a pocket dimension around England. Okay, so you can enter through England, and it's just like a leeway to get into the different worlds that the Marvel Universe has to offer other than Earth. Okay, so it's like Switzerland, except between multiverses. Think about it like that, okay? Switzerland. But you need to know the Braddock family, which is Brian and Betsy, who are twins. Brian is not a mutant, and he is the original Captain Britain, okay? Not Captain Britain in this book, because that changes after the first issue. And then you have Jamie, who is a mutant. Betsy and Jamie are mutants, and Jamie is Monarch, and he's a giant dick. Betsy, we all know. But what was your trip kind of familiarizing yourself with this cast of characters? Obviously Apocalypse, Gambit, Rogue being the ones that you would see on the TV series. Mm-hmm. Not so much like Richter and Betsy. They didn't really get their shine, but they're huge focuses on this book. If you could talk about your experience familiarizing yourself with these characters.
Well, in a lot of ways, as we all know as X-Men fans, the lore has changed so much over the years. When I was reading it heavily, it was the Joe Madureira days with the Kuberts, which is great, kind of like post Age of Apocalypse and things like that. So I didn't know too much. I mean, I knew about Richter. I mean, Richter on X-Force and stuff like that. A lot of those things. A lot of those things were kind of like readily available for me. But Betsy, I knew, obviously from her time as Psylocke. It's funny because my knowing of Betsy was super confusing, because when I was reading that Kubert issue with when I think Revenge was blind, and then there was like a lot of Betsy, Psylocke, Quanon, like kind of shifting between brains.
Yeah.
Super confusing as a kid. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. So I just assumed I only knew two things about Betsy, is that she's Psylocke, or she's half Psylocke, if you want to say. And, she's stuck in Quanon's body, and that she's a mutant. And
she still has a British accent in Quanon's body.
Yeah.
For any guys who are not familiar with that, there was a time when Quanon was brought in but her mind and Betsy's were like kind of swapped. Okay, so it was like you had Quanon being in Betsy and Betsy being a Quanon, still being able to have her Psylocke powers. Okay, this is like back years ago. Okay, now with Krakoa, you can have both.
Yeah.
Except.
Yeah, and not only that though, too. I mean, it makes sense. The story we were trying to revolve around, which is trying to. It's almost like we, as an audience, are following Betsy and getting to know Betsy, just like she's getting to know herself again as well. Right. So the goal was that, you know, Betsy, to a certain degree, to most more modern readers, is a new character because we only knew her as Psylocke for a long time, and for a good amount of time when she got her own body back, you know, she was kind of like here but not really here, right? She was kind of like in books but not really. So we wanted to give her the spotlight to kind of have her on a journey to find where she belongs in this world. So you know, that's why we had her kind of, I mean, I didn't make this decision, but you know, the mantle of Captain Britain worked well because it allowed her to kind of take on the responsibility that it was supposed to be for somebody else's. So, and then her kind of like journey of accepting who she is now and not what she was as who she was as Psylocke and who her brother is that she can never live up to in Captain Britain.
Right.
And you know, I think those are themes that a lot of us can understand, you know, because you know, we all kind of always go through those times in our lives when all the things we knew we're not sure about anymore, and we have to kind of make a decision on a new life. So
right. And a cool little parallel to that is like the Captain America kind of mantle change we're going through in the MCU, right? And I don't really see is can they live up to this person, is how can they be different and how can they kind of exceed expectations in a different way, which I think that has been really cool about Betsy's journey through all of this, because she's had to deal with Apocalypse. Like half the time she's been exploring around Otherworld. Now she's dealing with Saturnine, you know?
Yeah.
When I was explaining this to a buddy the other day, it's like a rectangle. You have Betsy and Brian, and then you have on the other side Apocalypse and Saturnine, and they're just all kind of connected.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I really wanted to talk about, we already talked about some influences on the script, but like how tight is it like going with Jonathan Hickman's plan? Because I know there's like a kind of a hierarchy of like Hickman, Teeny, and then like the rest of the team.
Yeah.
If you can kind of talk about the way that works, like kind of the structure of editorial with this book.
Well, the thing about Marvel, and they've been really good about this in the past, is that they would have these, you know, group meetings, not even just meetings, but sometimes they would even just get together. What are they called? Writing retreats kind of thing. Obviously, with COVID, you can't go anywhere, so all their retreats are through Zoom call. But you have all the writers talking together, so at least you have a system in place where you're already kind of getting used to discussing these matters. You know, sometimes creators are solitary, and you know, you get used to that kind of lifestyle, I guess you want to say. But with this one, you're kind of forced to work with a team. So even if you're the leader, you have to explain why X, Y, and Z is your plan. So then at least even in the writing retreat, you know, and you're writing, and then you go home and you write books, you know, separate from, you know, the other person, you already have discussed the plans. So you're not going into your scripts with without knowing, and one of the things you don't want to do is just write something and then they're going to be you know, upset that they have to change it because someone else made a different plan that no one knew about. So I really do believe Marvel has done a really good job kind of setting this expectation to work within a team right off the bat, before even anything gets done. So
right, and that's really important, especially when you're planning up to Ten of Swords, you know, Excalibur being that book going into it. How tight were like the deadlines and expectations for Excalibur to hit so people can get ready for Ten of Swords?
For me, it was easy. I won't say I don't want to say it's easy. I mean, any deadline's difficult, but I've Teeny's a pro, so she gave me the scripts right on time, and I made my deadlines every single time for the last 2 years. And when Ten of Swords kind of happened, there was a shift because that was when the first COVID stoppage hit, and there were Diamond had to pause shipments to comic stores, and that was a tough time for a lot of people. And I think that's also when Marvel wanted to do something a little bit more with Ten of Swords. So leading up to it, I was told that you're going to do the prelude to the Ten of Swords, and then 3 issues of Excalibur are with different artists. So realistically, I didn't have much of a hand in it other than leading up to it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right, which is just as important, right? Because if you can't lead anybody into the book, no one's going to want to read it. Which that was like really what I was going for, was like the first 8 issues, right? 8 issues of Excalibur hitting on every beat. How I was like getting to know these characters and then being able to establish their relationships in this new world of Krakoa. If you can kind of talk about that as well.
Well, I think that's. I mean, I know it's. Comics is kind of funny because again, you have only a limited amount of space to kind of tell a story about the characters in it, and team book specifically is extra hard for it because no matter how many times you do something with one character, another character is going to be kind of put off to the side, right? So it's what I really liked about the first few issues is that we did take it slow and we did make sure that people understood what the characters' motivations were, so that when something like Ten of Swords or X of Swords hit, we all know the stakes, and and I think with a book like Excalibur, I think Teeny did a really good job to kind of balance that. And I know that like I love books like Excalibur. Like I love books like Excalibur that has strong story ties to lead up with a larger story, because I mean that's just what makes Marvel so good. Because like why a lot of people enjoyed Marvel from the beginning. Well, I mean there's a understanding with the characters connected with them, but what it expanded that was when you found out, Spider-Man was in the Fantastic Four's building in this one issue or whatever, right? And so you connect these characters and their relationships with each other, and then when larger events happen, you get a different viewpoint from the actual event, which is again why I felt like the I think it was a maxi series called Marvels with Alex Ross,
right?
Why that was so unique and wonderful, because you remember all these pivotal points in Marvel history, and it was viewed from a different viewpoint. And I think books like Excalibur on a smaller side of things like have that ability to do that.
Right, 100%, man. And then post Ten of Swords, what we're doing right now is Betsy kind of figuring out how to come back, Quanon coming back, right? And their relationship is expanding, kind of like I would even say they're right now from the latest issue, we can kind of call them friends. I mean, you kind of talk about the Malice arc, bringing her back, and the decisions to do so in that little 2-part story arc from the previous 2 issues was a lot of fun. Malice, obviously, last time I remember her was Messiah Complex. So talk about that story arc for us, because that was a lot of fun bringing Betsy back.
Yeah, I mean, that was another way we could, explore other worlds, other dimensions, and and in the past you've seen multiple Captain Britons before from different dimensions in the old comics. So I think this was a fun way to see different Betsy Captain Britons, and
Right.
from her journey around, from a few spots, we got to see a few, unique Betsy's, and then bring them all back and show, kind of like the group images of the Captain Britons, which again in past Excaliburs we've seen before. So, nods to what was done before as well. And but it does go in line with kind of like how she feels, she
Right.
feels like, the way I see it when I try to draw her, right, and understanding the character, I think is one of the most important things when you're drawing or creating or writing a character, is that um, she doesn't feel very confident in her skin. But she's a hero nonetheless. She'll do what needs to be done. And I think in the two-part story, her being lost and Psylocke being the one person that knows her the best, because whether they liked it or not, they shared a body and they knew everything about each other.
Right.
And I think that's one of those kind of relationships that is unique, because it's like any kind of close knit relationship. And after you break up, even if you don't, you're kind of stuck in, this is my life now, and almost embarrassed that that person knew you from before. That's how I see it. And that's like, their relationship is kind of like one where, obviously, to me at least, Betsy is very embarrassed when being around Quantum, because she's
Kind
knows
of. Right.
everything about me, too much
Right.
about me, right?
Right. And I also
And
kind of feel like she's feeling a little bit of remorse for what happened all the way back
yeah,
in the 90s
oh
when
yeah,
they were
for sure.
sharing a body, because like that's why she doesn't want to be Psylocke anymore from
Yeah,
the first issue.
yeah,
Like hence the Captain Britain whole esque. If you guys do want to know where Brian is, read the book. Also,
yeah.
quick little plug is everything is in the description below. You can order volume 1 and volume 2 from your LCS if you want to wait for the hardcover coming out in August. That is also going to be available for you as well. I'll be picking that up. And you can follow Marcus Anthony Toe on Instagram at Marcus Anthony Toe. Everything is in the description below for you guys. Just wanted to talk about that real quick. Make sure you guys do check out his work. He's always posting drawings, not always X-Men, but a lot of it is X-Men. So there is a lot for you guys, and he's a very talented artist. Going forward with Excalibur, is anything you can kind of tease or hint at us? Anything exciting coming up in issues 21 and 22?
Well, 21 will revolve around the Hellfire Club. Hellfire Gala, and that will be kind of like a jumping off point with the story going forward. So we're gonna see kind of the ramifications of X of Swords, ramifications of Excalibur's presence in the other world, as well as Britain itself. There's going to be some strong disagreements, if you want to say, with Britain and the mutants, and a new enemy, or an old enemy, if you want to say, is going to make their play to make sure that they have control of Britain and not the mutants. So
What? I mean, that's awesome, and I'm right now just going through my head. I'm trying to think, put the piece together. My friend Justin says, Marcus, are you taking commissions at this time?
Unfortunately, I'm not. I'll tell you why. It's mostly because when I committed to doing a full-time, ongoing book, I take that job very seriously. I think you fans deserve a creative team that stays on the book for as long as possible. And because of that, I just don't have time. I actually had to, and as we were going to be talking about this too, but I also have taken on a few projects with DC. So that takes up my time. The last bunch of months, I probably draw 30 pages a month, 25 to 30 pages a month. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So commissions are out of the question, unfortunately. And the only ones I've done so far is for charity. So
Well, that's awesome. If you do ever open up commissions, I will be sure to promote and let the community know, so that if they do wish to get something going, because I know I would personally love a Psylocke piece or a Betsy Captain Britain piece, like right over there. I have a nice little spot right over there for it. And then the Hellfire Gala, you did have a hand in creating 5 costumes, being Gambit, Monarch, Jubilee, Gloriana, who we have yet to see
Megan.
her. That's Megan. That's Megan.
Yeah,
okay,
Megan.
That is Megan. And then Richter, who has been kind of having his own little journey with Apocalypse, but Apocalypse is not around anymore. So what were your kind of designs for this Hellfire Gala? How much control did you have with that, and why did you decide to take the route you did with some of these characters?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of all over the place in the sense of, like, you know, Met Gala. We tried to look at Met Gala costumes, like what have people done, but also what do I want to draw. Like sometimes I'm like, oh God, I can't draw that. But well, let's start with Gambit. Gambit was the easiest / hardest. So I have like a ton of Gambit designs that were not chosen, but they're easiest in the sense that, like, I had like 8. Just whipped up 8, like, oh, I think he looked good in this, I think he looked good in this. And then so I actually got one idea came from P. Diddy's Met Gala outfit, but matched that with a bit of Rogue's. So I wanted him to, instead of the green that Rogue had with the pattern on her undershirt, I wanted Gambit to have the pink, right, and then and a kind of flowery design on his jacket. But I also wanted him to have, you know, be bare chested,
to be ripped.
Well, I mean, I figured Gambit would have that. I mean, I have other ones where he's like in a big hat and other things like that, with like shirtless and mesh top and things like that. It's just, and then the editors kind of look at it, say, you know, we want this direction, we don't want this direction. So I'm always happy to work with the editors to see what we want as a group. With Gloriana, oh, nice. With Gloriana was a little bit more traditional. We wanted to make her look like kind of like a you know, Old English maiden look from the, you know.
Right. And her design was pretty cool too, with all the colors and the wings. It was pretty simple, but it works. It works very well for her character. Convex says, met Marcus many times around Toronto. He's always graced with autographs, sketches, always talks to meet about my former job at AJ Sports World. That dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's AJ awesome. Sports World is awesome for sports memorabilia stuff. Like I've gotten a few things from them before, but
probably a lot of hockey stuff. Probably a lot of hockey stuff. So we're gonna see Monarch in here, and his design, which screams his personality.
So I saw this on Twitter once. So I drew him. I just wanted over the top, but I realize now he really should have been wearing some kind of high heel, like not necessarily stilettos, but heels. But I wanted him, for some reason, I thought in my head, I was like, you know, he's got to look all white, like he's literally just white and then white body paint and white whatever. But someone online said this, where in their, you know, brain canon is that since Jamie can warp reality, he just made himself look like a drawing. I'm like, you know what? That works really, really well. I'll go with that reason. I think that's really neat.
And I don't know about a lot of other people, but we're made not to like Jamie, so I think that's perfect. We don't like him, especially because he hasn't been in this book, and he took over Morgan Le Fay's kingdom. He's just sitting there like his shit don't stink, coming in. And this is probably gonna be his first sit down with like the rest of the world after Apocalypse dipped on everything.
I mean, he's gonna be. There's gonna be ramifications of his actions too. So in the next bunch of Excalibur issues, we're gonna see what comes of what he did.
And Saturnine as well. I'm like
Yep.
hoping she just comes in to this meeting because it's like open for everyone. I'm just like, I wonder what she's gonna say because Betsy's under the impression that Saturnine knows that she's back and that Saturnine is pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Saturnine is kind of always to me had like this back pocket kind of Magneto thought in her head, like, okay, back when Magneto was back, kind of like planning for the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can kind of tease anything going with Saturnine, kind of her relationship or her situation right now from the Citadel.
Well, her relationship will actually be. Again, I'm pausing because I'm not sure what I can say, but I just know that there's going to be more Saturnine Betsy relationship building. Let's just say that.
Makes me very happy.
They're gonna try to see how to work together.
There you go. There you go. And Jubilee's costume, that's probably the last one her and Richter, we haven't really touched on. Mm-hmm. Jubilee has also been a cool little highlight of this book with her and Shogo in the early issues. What was your thought process with her design?
Well, I was going for just more glamorous, like, okay, like let's not go wild with Jubilee. I think her, because I personally think, because hey, I'm 37 years old, I'm an adult, and I still dress like I'm 20,
like you're ready to hit the ice,
19 years old or something like that. And that's how I saw Jubilee too. She's like, whatever, I'm a mom, my everyday, I'm gonna wear the jacket that I had in high school with like comfy slacks and a top. That's but obviously still fall in line with her X-Men costume, right? Like I thought of her normally with that, but with the gala, I was like, you know what? It's her opportunity to just glam it up, just go not overtly sexual, mostly just like, I'm on a red carpet. It's my night out. I'm gonna just go like
and
sparkly
I'm a
dress.
Single mom.
Yeah.
She said, and I'm a single mom. Just go for it, 100%. Yeah. And then Richter kind of looks like he's a little bit of suspicion going on. If you guys can see, that's Richter right there. Jubilee that we just talked about.
Well, Richter is little bit more. I think he needed. We had plans for him. Specifically, they asked for a cloak. They wanted a cloak, mostly because of he's kind of in a weird place right now mentally. He does not want to go to this gala. So in the story, he does not want to be there. He thinks it's a bad idea. He hates everything about it. He's feeling like, he started developing a close relationship with Apocalypse, and he feels that he's not that why should they celebrate all the stuff that happened when all this bad stuff happened too, right? So He doesn't want to be there, and not only that, it's so he doesn't want to be seen, but he's being dragged along. So cloak makes sense because he's trying to no one talk to me kind of thing, right? But I also still wanted to give him some flair, which is like green suit with kind of branches looking pattern on his top, and then a mesh shirt on the inside. So somewhat subdued, but it goes along with the motif, and I think that's what we were trying to do with what we wanted. Not just the costumes to just be not overtly flamboyant, which some of them are, but we wanted them to have a personality as well, like what the character would want to do right at this time tonight. Right.
It's almost like if you're giving this to a cosplayer and saying go for it, what would they do? Or like if you gave it to this, which I really enjoy hearing about how these costumes are created, and in the personality, it's almost you're putting yourself into this character's shoes, this fictional character. So it's like you can make all the decisions, but you're supposed to be this character. And I love hearing about that. But the last costume is, what are you wearing to the Hellfire Gala? Certainly not a Canucks jersey.
I gained some weight over the last COVID lockdown, so I nothing fits me anymore. I have to figure that out. I've been in an all black kind of mood these days, which is not necessarily a great thing, but I would be, maybe some eyeliner with a black everything tux, open shirt.
There you go. So we're not going to see you doing anything that Gambit's doing, right? I don't know. I was going to ask you if your partner decided to pick out this outfit for Gambit, but
I don't have the abs for it, but I'm trying to work on it.
And then I highly do encourage everyone to ask Marcus Toe a question if you have not already, or if you have more questions. I strongly encourage you, just like the comic vet, saying, forgive me if this question has been asked, but Marcus, are you missing the convention scene in this past year? I think all of us have, but are you specifically?
Before the lockdown, I was going to a decent amount of cons, and it's kind of interesting because it's kind of like a two-part street because they're exhausting and they do take away from work. And like I said earlier, like I take drawing, monthly comics very seriously, so I don't go to a lot of cons when I have a project like Excalibur. And funny enough, the last con I was at was when they announced Excalibur at New York Comic Con, and it was a really awesome kind of showing. Like new people started to come to my table, not knowing my work from prior projects, and coming to see me. And this was even before an issue came out. So when we go back, I hope that I'll see a lot of fans with Excalibur comics and like 20 issues, and I'll sign them all for free. Like I'd be happy to. Like I'm looking forward to hearing what people think and talking to me again. I love. The thing I love about comics is meeting people and talking to people. Like I'm
right.
That's what it's all about. And hope
when
we get to that point, I'll be looking forward to it.
Right, and I will have all my issues ready for you because I will be there. Yeah, and just like you said, just meeting people, getting to know the fans and community is really what it's all about, because we're all fans at the end of the day, And if you're able to walk away from your project and say, hey, look, I'm proud of this, I'm sure you're going to have a huge fan base, especially it being Xmen, where we haven't had Xmen or a seminal Xmen title in years, right? Mm-hmm. And this wave has already been being compared to what Chris Claremont is doing and completely looked over from what Grant Morrison and Bendis did, which I'm okay with. But yeah, what are your upcoming projects going forward after the gala? You said you're doing some stuff in DC. You can talk about that for us, because there is an issue coming out, a one-shot coming out this Wednesday.
Yeah, I can even product placement because I got my comps. But one of the things that I've been working on is a book called Batman Urban Legends. So I'm doing some of the flashback scenes for the Jason Todd story. And then the one that I'm extremely proud of is the DC Festival of Heroes Asian Superhero celebration. I'm doing a Cassandra Cain story and a little sneak peek. So a little bit different, a little bit darker than what I normally do, maybe, but it's fun. It's always fun to kind of dive back into DC, where that's where I got my start. Well, my big two start, and yeah, and just to kind of be spotlighted as an Asian creator, and sharing kind of stories with Asian characters, which is I think it's quite important to kind of give these characters a little bit more spotlight, because the more I'm a big fan of diversity, because I think it's important that we all have these things to love and cherish, because we as fans fell in love with our characters for different reasons, and we should give others the ability to fall in love with their characters as well.
Right, and well said, man. Like, we all have those people that we look up to, and especially like being like an Asian creator, giving like these characters a lot of spotlight where they haven't prior, and I felt like Cassandra Cain was one of those characters that's like we've always wanted to know more about, who's had an excellent story, and she just needs a little bit more spotlight. Which
for sure, I think
right?
she's a huge fan favorite, and the fact that
Right,
she hasn't had. I mean, they, obviously she was in her own book a while ago, but
right.
since then seemed like crickets. But
She
I
was in Outsiders though, in Batman and the
oh yeah,
Outsiders. That Dexter Soy and who wrote it? Brian Hill.
good
Brian Hill.
memory. You got a really good memory.
I'm probably reading everything on the shelf right now,
Nice,
so
that's awesome.
it's like it's rapid fire.
Yeah,
It's like if you asked me when the last time Bluebird appeared, I could prior to the Punchline series, I could probably tell you right now. But
awesome.
that's just something that I try to take pride in as doing this stuff is having the
Yeah, of
knowledge.
course.
So if other people, like you said, want to pursue these heroes, someone can
Hmm.
help them and kind of give them avenues to explore.
Yeah,
Right.
and just being excited about seeing people that are from where you're from or things like that. And as a hockey fan, like that's the whole thing about sports. Like how many people are like, oh, he's from my hometown, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's like people do that all the time, and people love that.
Right, right. And speaking of hockey, I have a fun story from when I used to play. This is the first goal I ever scored, or first goal I almost scored.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was probably 13 at the time, probably a little young, probably 12, 13. We were playing at the Verizon Center back before it was like Capital Arena.
Right.
And Alex Ovechkin starts watching my game, and he's standing behind the goal. So I'm on defense, right? I'm a defender, and I block a shot, right? And I'm on a breakaway, and I see Alex Ovechkin behind the net. I'm so distracted that it's Alex Ovechkin. I fake out the goalie and I hit the post. And this is like my first goal that I almost scored. And I'm a Penguins fan, so like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's okay. But the fact that it was Alex Ovechkin just chuckled. I just looked at him. He just like started chuckling. But you're obviously a big Vancouver Canucks fan.
Well, if you're a
Unfortunately,
Penguins fan, it's funny. My girlfriend went to school with Sidney Crosby.
oh, dude,
She's from Halifax.
dude, that's awesome. I've never had the chance to meet Crosby, but I met Vulcan. But you're a Canucks fan.
Unfortunately, so, yes.
I mean,
it's been really rough.
10 years ago.
The whole 50-some odd year history has been rough. I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, you guys have had a pretty good legacy with the Sedin brothers. You at least got to the Stanley Cup that 1 year against the Blackhawks.
Yeah, 2011 ruined me already. So
yeah,
I can be honest with you. I'm never gonna cheer for the Boston Bruins ever.
It's all right. I don't think anyone who is not a Bruins fan is ever going to be rooting for them in the first place. It's like I think the Bruins are like the poster team to not like other than the Flyers.
I'd argue that every team from that area, the Red Sox, the Patriots, there's a lot of people that hate all those teams, and I love like. I don't want to hate on Boston as a place because I mean I hear it's a lovely place with a lot of
it's fantastic.
People. I've never been, unfortunately, but yeah, it's Vancouver. I actually grew up in Alberta, but and I'm a Canucks fan. But it's mostly because it's one of those kind of things where I went to a French Catholic school as well, so and we had. Everyone was every fan. Like, someone was a Flames fan, someone was an Oilers fan, someone was a Penguins fan, someone was a Habs fan, someone was, like everyone. And so no one cheered for each other anyway. So we just kind of just been. Well, it was already. I'm too old for that to be our childhood fan. I would have already been what? Did they came into the league? What 93? I think it was. So I would have been 10. I mean, I guess so, but I mean, I had Sen stuff. I mean, my parents bought me Sen stuff, but I think that's because it was like they were just getting rid of it.
Yeah. But yeah, the Canucks are a good team. Roberto Luongo is one of the better goalies that we've seen. And then who is the next? Oh, he went to play for the Devils for a little while. Corey Schneider, yeah.
Yeah, but he kind of fell out of his play just fell off for really drastic. So it's unfortunate, but it sounds like he's going to be starting to do management stuff, and I think that's where his mind is at these days, which is good. Apparently, I hear a lot of good things about Corey Schneider as a really smart
businessman,
and you're gonna start seeing him in managerial positions in the NHL in the
right.
future.
And I was always a
Roberto
fan of that guy.
Luongo. Roberto Luongo was also just hired as the GM for the World Championships for Canada, so that's good.
Right,
But,
right.
The Canucks right now are in an interesting position because they're still young and they're still trying to go through some stuff. So
right.
We'll see. Hopefully,
Right.
I say in about 2 years they should be contending.
Right, and teams go through that, every now and again. They miss the playoffs, they miss that push. Sometimes take a few steps back, take 5 forward. So the Canucks are there right now, but they're always a team that you don't want to overlook, even though the record doesn't reflect that. They always give their best. They don't always tank like Edmonton did for 7 years.
Yeah, you never go full Edmonton. You never go full Edmonton.
And then my guy Travis says we joke, we say he's on Krakoa because he's on a little island in Canada. He says, Marcus, have you ever been to Prince Edward Island, aka
No,
Krakoa?
Unfortunately not. The only East Coast place I've been is Halifax, because my girlfriend's from there, so we visit family there from time to time.
Right on, man. And that just about wraps everything up. Is there anything else that you would like to promote, plug? Now's your time.
Yeah, I want, if people can, go check out the Raid Studios. So our website is raid.world. We have a bunch of great creators like Ramon Perez, Scott Hepburn, Kelman Entrazovsky, and a lot of new, young, up-and-coming creators. We have Kickstarters going on. We have gallery showings. If you're in Toronto, we have gallery showings coming on. I think we're doing a virtual gallery show because of COVID for TCAF right now. So go check out raid.world and the Raid Studios on Instagram. So there's a lot of information on stuff like that. And we do our own creator-owned books there too. So raid.world is the place, and the store is there if you wanted to pick up some of our creator-owned books.
There you go. And I will drop that into the description below after the video, so you guys can go find that as well. Once again, you can find Excalibur on Amazon or out your LCS. They should have it, whether you're picking up in floppies or in the paperback or later on in hardcover in about until August. But I wouldn't wait that long because it's a great book. Marcus, thank you so much for being on the show today, and I can't thank you enough, man. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
No problem, man. And thank you for the chat for catching us live. If you are catching the replay, thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel for more Creators Corner announcements that I've already on Wednesday is going to be Becky Clune and Michael Conrad, team on Wonder Woman. And then following Saturday is going to be Will Sportasio, who is a huge legend in the industry.
Oh my God. Wonderful person too. He's
an inspiration to everybody, and probably in the medium. So thank you guys so much for your endless support. And for all the support. I can't thank you guys. I can't even put it into words right now. But thank you guys so much for everything.